Hi, ladies. I'm so excited for you to join me this morning as I am talking about finding the joy in the daily muck because it is a definite reality. And I'm trying to fix this so you can have a little bit better lighting. I I actually decided to do this because I got a post from a gal who said, "Is everything in your life going so great? Does it always go that way?" Asking for a friend, hashtag, which was too hysterical. And at first I was like, well, of course not. People know that. But then I realized in me pursuing this joy challenge that it may be possible that some people may feel like, oh, then life is just giddy and so easy for Connie. Connie must have figured out how to just have the easiest life and wake up in the morning and she sings pretty little songs to animal creatures who help her with her chores. It must be something like that. She must have figured out a secret. So, nay, it is not like that. I am not even wanting in the least degree to convey this feeling that somehow every minute of every day I am feeling incredible joy and it just oozes from me. I want to make the point though that right off the bat and the things that I'm going to share with you today, that the exact reality that we experience of the things that are anti-joy, the things that make us feel despair and discouragement and frustration and anger and a lack of joy, those same things, we can shift our lens. We can do things that can make it different. So if today you're like, you know what, I just want to go grab my Ben and Jerry's and I don't want to hear about how you can make joy and make lemonade out of lemons, then I am not the gal for you because I want to focus on being able to acknowledge what's going on, but then move forward. I do not want to dwell in the muck. I want to be able to say, here are some things that I can tangibly do, and after I've had my temper tantrum emotionally, then I am ready to face some of these things that I can do to move forward that bring me joy in this experience so that I don't feel these feelings that are so negative and make me feel like, oh, I feel this despair. So join with me for just a few minutes today, if that's your bag, is to say, you know what, I want to have a little bit of both and I want to be able to still move forward. Then join with me for just these next few minutes and I'm going to give you some key suggestions on doing that just very briefly. So the first one, of course, is to acknowledge the yuck. You have to embrace, acknowledge the yuck. Now, embracing is a separate step. We can acknowledge it without even embracing it. We say, ugh, that closet really needs to be cleaned. But it doesn't mean we embrace the joy of cleaning the closet. So that's kind of an emotional thing as well. We can acknowledge that there's some messy things in our lives. We can acknowledge that things are not the way that we would want. And in fact, there's times where they are completely out of our control. They're brutal to us emotionally and we don't want them. We'd rather give them to someone else, thank you very much, who could handle them probably so much better than ourselves. But alas, it's that Lord of the Rings moment where Frodo is talking with Gandalf and they're in the cave and I can't do it exactly, but that's actually one of my most favorite moments. The rest is a bunch of orcs fighting and it's okay. I just can't watch it. But this moment is one of my favorites where Frodo in essence says, I wish the ring had never come to me. Have you ever felt that way? I wish this challenge had never come to me. I wish that I didn't have to go through this. I wish my child didn't have to go through this. I wish my friend didn't have to go through this. And we feel these feelings like, oh, can someone just take this away, please? I just don't want it. So we all have those moments of I just don't want it and we feel that emotional temper tantrum and that's part of the package deal. That's okay. We want that feeling. It's even in the scriptures. Jesus Christ went to Gethsemane and he said, I don't want to do this. Can you take this cup from me? I don't want to have to go through this in essence. I don't want what this is going to be. It's going to be painful and brutal and unfathomable. However, that one key word that he offers is just pivotal. Nevertheless, 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 I am trusting that God the Father knows what I need to do and what I need in order to make this work. And whatever your belief system is, whether it's Allah, whether it's, if you're Catholic, if you're Buddhist, if you're Baptist, whatever that is, or if you just love nature, think about what that divine influence and presence is for you. But that's what I have to stop and think. Even the Savior was the one that said, I don't want this, but nevertheless, I'm going to face it. So we have to acknowledge it. We have to face it, and hopefully we get to a point where we embrace it. But acknowledge it. Be able to say, this really stinks. And I know for myself, years ago, I was sitting in a church meeting and somebody was talking about how joyful their life was. And I remember sitting in that pew, feeling really Christian and saying, well, when's that going to happen for me? When am I going to feel that joy? Because I don't feel it. And feeling this despair of somebody else was having a joyful experience and why didn't I get that? Now, I've come a long way since then. And I don't have that same immaturity, but it is a knee-jerk human reaction that we have. And it's understandable when we feel like we're trying so hard and our world is still so difficult in so many ways. So I want you to think for just 1 second. Just think of something that you're dealing with in your life and write down one sentence that says, you know what? I acknowledge that this blah is hard. So just acknowledge that for a minute. Write it down. I'm going to turn on the light. Okay, let's see if that gets a little more light. I had to turn down this blind. Just 1 second, because it was just so bright in here. If you can imagine, it was so bright that I just literally couldn't. There we go. Is that a little bit more? I feel like I'm just sitting in the dark. Anyway, so did you write down that one sentence? This challenge, whatever, I acknowledge this blah, whatever it is a challenge, is difficult, is yuck, is hard, whatever that looks like for you. Okay. Now, once you've kind of acknowledged that, then you can start doing something with it. You can acknowledge that I need to have a day where I just need to go under the covers. I need to have a moment where I go in the shower and just sob. I need to have a moment today where I say, I really don't like your behavior. I don't like what you're doing, even though I know you've done it for 50 billion times and you're going to keep doing it for 50 billion times. But I'm letting you know what you're doing is hurting and I need you to understand that. It probably won't change anything, but acknowledging that for yourself and for someone else is really a powerful concept. So consider some different ways you can acknowledge it. Another thing is we were talking, I have the scripture study group that meets once a month, and we were talking together about the part of the package joy, the joy package deal is having those moments where you are under the covers, where you are angry, where you are like, I'm checking out from the world. I don't want to talk to anyone right now. That's all part of the joy package. You think, what? That's part of joy? Absolutely. Joy is not a beautiful field and someone sitting with a guitar and singing, you know, the sounds of music. It is all part of that package. It's this process that we get to of being able to dig deep and still dig up all that, the sifting, the mining for the gold. We sift through those emotions. We maturely start, or immaturely, start to work through those. We have a tantrum. Maybe we get better acknowledging and expressing our feelings. And then we come out with these gems or these gold nuggets that we can say, I got the learning. I got the learning because I started acknowledging this. That's what's so key. So I encourage you to acknowledge your yuck, however that looks for you. If it's throwing dishes out the backyard that you just need to get the release, you know, get some from DI and throw a few out there on the tree. So whatever it takes, acknowledge that. The second step is to create something. Every day, find some way to create. Doesn't matter if you're baking something, doesn't matter if you're creating a new clean space in your home, doesn't matter if you're creating a little art project, doesn't mean if you're creating some kind of writing, write a haiku, whatever it is, create something. There is a particular connection we women have with creation. And as we acknowledge the need for us to create, I have noticed for myself and other women that as we do this, we actually be able to experience and then express more joy. So create something today. Create something, a thought that's been new. That's why reading or listening to things, you doing this Facebook Live right here is so vital because it will springboard other thoughts and ideas that will be an act of creation. And as you create, you will feel this enlivening feeling. You will feel this healing feeling. You will feel and be directed to go in ways that you hadn't really seen before, because now suddenly instead of this big rock in the middle of your face, in the middle of the road that you can't see anything but this yuck, this thing that's right in your way, or this 6 feet of mud that you're sticking in, now you've elevated your lens and now you're looking ahead, looking up above, you're looking around and saying, who can I connect with? What can I create? What can I do about this, rather than just feel stuck in the yuck? And that's what we do not want. So what can you create? Now, I will give you a heads up. You will usually get an impression or a thought to create something when you least feel like it, because you are in the muck and you're like, I deserve a break, quite frankly, and I really just don't want to even do anything that requires mojo. But if you get those feelings and you will go with them, I can promise you, you will experience more energy, more joy, more connection, more happiness, more oomph for the day, more delight in what's happening, more calmness and balance in how you're dealing with already is. You will experience these things in the very moment, in the very thick of the thicket that you think, I can't do that. I don't even want to face that. For an example, 4 months ago, I was going through a divorce, and now it has been 4 months later and for almost 5. And I look back and feel like it has been an incredible experience. I went from feeling so low when I thought of all the things, the dreams that I had, the view, that the thought, the vision that I had of what life would be and could be like, and how all of that was shattered, that now I had to switch gears and go to a different place, go to a different lens. And I thought I was going to take this little break for a few months and be able to climb under the covers and just be able to try to envision this new vision and be able to be with my kids and try to figure out what that looked like. Oh no, up above, there was a new plan, and I had to hit that ground running. And the thought came, I need to make sure that I'm listening to these impressions and these promptings. And one of them was that I needed to write a book. And I love it. Susie, exactly. I love what you're sharing, because I got this feeling. I was doing a Studio 5 segment and it was on parenting, and I got this feeling, do it on what now? Dealing with a life challenge. I thought, I don't want to do it on dealing with a life challenge. I don't want to discuss with anyone that I'm dealing with a life challenge. I don't want anyone to know right now until I'm a little bit more sure and safe and not so dang vulnerable. And it persisted. So I called my producer and she said, love it, let's do it. Well, it was going to be a month down the road. And I thought, okay, I can avoid this for a while, right? Because you're just not in the mood for it. Then it would not stop. A few days later, I got this feeling, you should write an ebook about that particular subject of dealing with the life challenge. I don't want to write an ebook. I don't want to bare my soul about this right now. Can you just please leave me alone? And then a few days later, I got this feeling of, do a pre-order for the ebook that you haven't written on the subject that you don't want to write about. Like, what? Knock on the little phone thing. Is anybody listening to me that I really don't want to do this? And where am I going to dig up the mojo for the content for this? And yet I obeyed it. Finally, one morning, it was 6:30 in the morning, and that pre-order thought, and I'd never done one before myself, and I just Googled. I just thought, I'm not going to think, and that's a really good cue. Don't think about it. When you feel that feeling thought in your soul, just do it. Just do it and see what it yields. And so I did. I just went on Google and said, how do I do a pre-order? Had no cover, no content. For the cover, I put my logo for Back to Basics, a logo. And then for the content, I put, hey, thanks for joining me here. Content's coming. It's going to be great. Pre-order. Yeah, I literally did that. And I thought, well, I obeyed that prompting, so I'm good. I'm done. And then a couple days later, I thought I better check and see if I did that right, because knowing me, tech non, that I probably did it wrong. It was a bestseller in category. I was like, what? Couldn't believe it. I buckled down and I wrote that What Now book on a Friday night. I avoided it as long as possible. I was making little sticky notes and I'd just stick them away, and I'd be like, a thought would come and I'd just do that. I didn't sit down and go, okay, where's my peanut M&Ms and I'm going to really write this awesome novel. No, I just avoided it and wrote down some little thoughts. And then I just thought, I'm going to shove that aside. I'm trying to do my job. I'll be as obedient as I can be. And then guess what? It was like a Friday night and a Saturday morning. And that's how fast I wrote that. And I'll tell you what, I sat my bum in the chair, and it was late Friday night after the kids were done. And I sat my bum in the chair and I just started barfing it out. I just started typing and just said, well, I'll just get something out and I'll see what I can do with it. And I have to tell you, not only was it therapeutic, but it was so inspiring. This whole creative side came, and I could feel this feeling of, I just needed to step. I just needed to type. I just needed to do. So don't think the 52 steps ahead of all that includes. Just start with what you know for that creation process. And I just started. I thought I'd be sitting down for 5-10 minutes. I typed for, I think, a total of 6 to 8 hours, something like that. And it was done. I mean, I had to go back and finesse and edit and all of that and add in stuff and move it around and everything. But that main brainstorm was done. That turned into a video course. That turned into a series. That turned into another series. And that's where I am now. And that led me to a mastermind group that is incredible, that involves a former attorney general and a multimillionaire and a speaking icon of 35 years. Yeah. So my not wanting to do any of this and taking little steps of what I could do, little baby breaths, led me to where I needed to go to now. I look back and see how that process saved me through the yuck. That creation process of little bits here, little bits there, all added on in the elements of creation to create these beautiful pieces that now not only I keep enjoying, but other women are enjoying. That has led me to do this You Got This conference, where I didn't even want to do a conference. So here's a little caveat. As soon as you start doing that creation process, you're going to get more impressions to do something else and something else. And you still need to be careful of the when and the timing. But I'm just letting you know, that's the joy in the yuck, because it doesn't stop and then all of a sudden you get a clean slate and then you can start feeling happy and joyful again and you're singing, with Julie Andrews. It doesn't happen that way. If we don't consciously choose to actively seek and savor and share joy on a daily basis, if we don't look for it, seek for it, ask for it, and then seize it and enjoy it, then we're going to be waiting forever on when's that joy going to come? Because guess what? You're going to get hit with another thing and another thing. Now, that's not to be gloom and doom, but that's to be realistic. So on this whole line of, does anything bad ever happen in your life? I typed back to that gal every single day. Every single day. I have had some of the nastiest things happen to me. And guess what? I have noticed that as I seek for a lens of joy, this just happened to me last week. I got some nasty thing that was just oozing meanness. And it was just after I had come out of the LDS temple, which for me is a very beautiful refuge. And I just feel, rejuvenated and joyful. And I'm coming out and I'm feeling that butterflies and the, Snow White. Anyway, so I'm sitting in the car and I see this and I was like, what? So I went to go get some yummies for my kids and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what do I do with that? And I have to tell you, because I've been doing this joy challenge, there was a buffer. I could feel a buffer. Like I could feel that there was this meanness trying to get in, but I could feel this buffer. So even though I could feel it, it wasn't like this piercing thing that it would have been before. And the second thing is that I just said a prayer. That what can I do with this? Because that's kind of hard to find some joy in that. So maybe you have like an in-law or a family member or a situation where you're like, that is nothing joy. So think about that. So I thought this has no joy in here. What do I do to find the lens of joy? And you know what was great? I went to go get some yummies for my kids. I was sitting right before the Costa Vida thing. And all of a sudden I got this text from a friend that was so perfect, so beautiful, so responded to this meanness in such a beautiful way that just totally invalidated that and totally made me validated in who I am and what I am doing, that I was like, it was heaven sent. And it was hysterical because right then the Costa Vida lady comes on for my order and I'm like, I'll take 2 pork salads. And it was so embarrassing, but it was joy. It was joy. And I could feel, not only did I have the buffer, but then I got the blessing of the truth. And I was like, yes. That's what can happen when you keep moving forward. This act of creation, this act of seeking, sharing, savoring of this joy. That's how you're going to find it in the daily yuck. So remember, don't get stuck in the yuck. You got to rise above, actively seek for the joyful part. If you can't see it, which is often, then you ask for it. Whatever your divine influence is, you ask for it. And then you savor it and share it. And as you do that, like I'm doing here, hopefully it will springboard something you're thinking and feeling. And when you're going through something in your day, you'll be like, nah, Studio C, nah, I don't do anti-joy. Whatever it is, you'll go, oh, no, I remember. I need to acknowledge it. So it's okay for me to have a momentary temper tantrum about that anti-joy. And then I'm going to do an act of creation. I'm going to create the best hot fudge brownie sundae ever and share it with my kids. So whatever it is that you can get out of this, I totally want you to know these things work. Acknowledge it, and whatever that looks like for you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it all is part of the joy package. Don't think that dealing with joy means you have to be all smiley all the time. That's not part of it. That is a part of it. That's not all of it. And the second thing is create something. Create something. Create joy, create a positive mood, put candles on your house, bake something, take something to a neighbor, create an experience. Say everybody on the bed. That's what we did on Sunday when we had the big snowstorm. Everybody on the bed and let's cozy under the covers and we chat and everything. Create something.